Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Denise Belisle, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Welcome to It's All Good show. Lucas here for a chat. My guest today is Leisa Q, and you'll get to know her a little bit later. And the reason why I call it It's All Good, because I feel that life is amazing. And regardless of what happened to you, there's always something good and positive in that situation that you can either learn something, which is positive when you learn something, or you can grow, or it's actually going to be positive in the end, and you don't know that yet. So just stay positive, keep saying it's all good, look at the greater, brighter side of things, and life will be amazing. I'm doing something for the next couple of weeks, and I'm part of a conference called the Next Global Virtual Conference. And the next one is January 11, 19, January 19th. And I'm going to have guests from speakers from that conference for the next several weeks until the 19th. So that'll give you an overview of who are going to be the guests there. And I invite you to join us at the conference. This is a big link. So if you're watching the video, just pause and write it down. And I'll have that in the chat also. So look at that big link coming up. It's the next global virtual conference.com/event details /our trainer, Denise Belisle. So I'll be the trainer during that event. And I invite you to join us, and you can get tickets and assist at that conference. It's going to be from, as I said, 6 to 12 Pacific and 9 to 3 Eastern. So, and if you want to work or see more of my show, you can go on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Denise Belisle. And if you want to be on this show after the 19th of January, you can send me, book a call with me, tiny.cc/Denise, talk with Denise, and I'll be happy to have you there. So enough about me. Let's go to my guest, Leisa Q, and she's a love and happiness coach. So now, knowing me, she'll be a perfect guest for me, my show, and what I do, because we have so much in common. So let's welcome Leisa to the stage. Welcome, Leisa, from down under.
Hi, Denise. Lovely to be here today.
Wonderful. It's so good to have you. So now, love and happiness coach. I dig that. I love that. I'm also working with relationship and helping people, moving forward in their life and in their personal life and all that. But what is your path? What brought you to do that? Tell me a little bit about you, who you are. And now we know you're in Australia, but tell me a little bit of how you became a love and happiness coach, and what do you do?
Well, if someone had told me when I started my financial planning business nearly 9 years ago that I'd be a love and happiness coach, I would have thought they had rocks in their head. However, I've always been a big believer that life will continually meander you to where it wants you to be, not where you think you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a lot of challenges in my life, but I've always been always, the glass is always 3/4 full. It's never, ever even half empty or half
Mm-hmm.
full, because there's always a silver lining to
Yeah.
everything. And in how I actually became a love and happiness coach was when the global crisis happened with COVID and the world was shutting down. I was dealt the blow of losing my brother to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually my second brother that I had lost. The first one was in an accident. And I really found it really hard to feel such grief, but still see the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't allow myself to fall into that heap because I had clients that I had to deal with. So it was almost like I had to disconnect from the grief, deal with my clients in my business, being self-employed. There's only
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah, you can't help it, for sure.
And the industry that I was in at the time was bringing in all these changes. I felt like the whole time I was in the industry, it was just bringing in one change after the other that made my job harder and harder. And I felt like I had this noose around my neck, and it was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And when I lost my brother, I realized that for the last 5 years of his life, he hadn't been happy.
Mhm.
He was living a life that he didn't want to live. There was a lot of family pressure put on him to take over the family business when
Yeah.
all he really wanted to do was design T-shirts with happy, positive sayings on them. And so after he passed away and after I dealt with my grief, he came to me in a dream and he handed me something, and it was his healing gift. And that was kind of the biggest turning point for me, because I realized that so many people out there, we actually choose unhappiness.
Mhm.
I chose to fight my ex-husband in divorce courts for 8 years because he was initiating and I was responding. When I stopped responding and just went, no more, I just don't care anymore, it's like the universe went, oh, finally. And he stopped annoying me. And I went on to, build a business helping other people. So I really just took this beautiful journey where every time life threw something at me, I would just go, okay, how do I react, or do I respond, or do I allow?
Mhm.
And the more I started to allow versus reacting, the happier I became. And then how the love part came in was, I was always interested in relationships and why we seem to, it's almost like we self sabotage in our
Mhm.
relationships. And at the beginning of the year, I happened to just have this calling to go to the beach and have a swim. And that's not unusual. I live 3 minutes from the beach. I'm there most days. But this was an unusual day. And I hummed and hawed, and I'm like, oh, yes, no, yes, no. You know what? I'm going to go. And on that day, I actually met someone whilst physically swimming in the beach. And we started dating from the moment we met. And I realized, wow, is this what dating without doubt feels like? And so it took me on this beautiful journey of how you can invite love and allow love and happiness into your life without that resistance. And when the resistance isn't there, when we no longer have the wounds of our past, beautiful experiences come into our life. And, you know, sadly, that relationship didn't work out, but it was a beautiful experience. It was the first time I could see love and happiness as a journey and not a destination or getting stuck at the outcome. And so
Mhm.
that's what became the basis of my business.
That's great. And I love the what you said about that relationship, even though it didn't continue, obviously, for what you said, you're not with that person anymore. But what I hear is you lived everything you had to live while you were with that person, and you truly experienced love, and you truly open up yourself to what was there, as opposed to go in with breaks, or not, fear or anything else like that, which is awesome. And that taught you a lot about love. So that's what I
Mm.
understood from that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was the first time that I didn't get stuck at the outcome at the end, and I just
Mhm.
embraced the absolute sheer joy that I was experiencing.
Mhm.
And when I actually reframed my perspective on how I saw love and relationships, the happiness just grew. And so it's one thing to be a positive, happy person, but to really just embody true happiness. And even if it doesn't work out how you thought it was going to work out, don't get stuck at the
Yeah.
unhappiness.
Mhm.
Just go, wow, that was an amazing
It's
experience.
all
And,
good.
it's all good. And I love that. And, even when I was a financial advisor, I had a giggle to myself when I saw that you're a serenity expert, because my tagline for Sempre Financial was helping you achieve financial serenity.
Mhm.
And so for me, it wasn't about helping you make, millions of dollars. It was about working with you to achieve serenity, to achieve peace and happiness.
Yeah.
And so even as a financial advisor and money coach, I was always leading people to just learn to be happy with what they've got without, there was a saying that I used to use: don't let the things that you want make you forget the things that you have.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, you know. The stigma of the grass is greener on the other side. Well, just nurture your own grass and, you know, be happy with the fact that you do have grass, right?
Oh, yeah. The grass is always greenest where you water it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So tell me about I know we've talked also about your divorce, right? And then I know that so many people nowadays are divorcing, especially since COVID. There's been a big hike in divorce since COVID. So what is the secret of lasting relationship? So how can someone avoid to be a statistic of one of two couple end up in relationship?
I feel this is a kaleidoscope of answers that I could give you, but I know we don't have all day, but we will at the conference.
Yes, yes, we'll have lots of time.
However, what the biggest thing that I have discovered that has really helped me is learning my attachment style. I was a huge fan in the late 90s and early 2000s. I really got into Gary Chapman's Five Love Languages, and to
I
me,
love
that is
that.
a must read for everyone. Everyone.
Mhm.
However, when I learned the attachment styles, the lady's name forgets, Dorothy somebody. When I learned the attachment styles and realized why I was showing up in relationships the way I was and where it was going pear shaped and how they were showing up and where it went pear shaped for them. When you get to, because you're in the honeymoon bliss stage, like in the beginning, you're in that honeymoon phase. But then when we get into the power struggle stage, that's where we kind of butt heads. And that's often where people will jump out of the relationship.
Mhm.
And I know for me, my power struggle stage didn't come until after I was married, because a lot of us get married when we're still in that in love honeymoon feeling. And that feeling can last up to 2 years. So I got married within 18 months of meeting my ex-husband. So our power struggle stage didn't come until we had children. And
Mhm.
we never have predicted how that power struggle was going to show up. And it was very interesting because as an NLP and timeline therapist practitioner, I have learned not only what is my attachment style, but then how do we actually clean it up? And your attachment style is generally driven by wounds of the past, you know, either your childhood, how you grew up, what relationships you had early in your life, and even your attachment styles can actually develop or grow through, you know, broken relationships in your, you know, teens and your 20s and your 30s and even into your 40s and 50s and beyond. So for me, it wasn't just about learning about my style. It was about then, okay, how do I go and clean up those wounds? And that's where I
Mhm.
specialize is, and then once you've done that for yourself, then you actually learn to have this compassion for where someone else is.
Yeah.
And you can go, oh, okay, so I see that as we were getting closer and closer, you started to pull back, and you can recognize that, and you can actually have compassion, and you then learn how to have the conversations, those uncomfortable conversations. That
Yeah.
I was a very avoidant personality when it came to relationships. The minute I felt like I was losing myself, or the minute I felt like they were getting too close or my freedom was being taken away from me, I would back off. You would
Mhm.
literally hear reversing beeps.
Yeah.
But when I met somebody like the gentleman that I met that day in the ocean, I am like all in. I'm 110% in, head, fingers, toes, you know, everything. But yes, when what I recognized was as soon as the relationship started to get too intense, I was out of there. And
Mhm.
so learning that about yourself, you can recognize the triggers, you can recognize the signs, and then you can learn to recognize those in others. But for me, it's about cleaning up the wounds that are causing those triggers.
Yeah, I like what you're saying because, um, like as I mentioned earlier, I do also work with relationship and people, and what I always say is, instead of pointing the finger, you know, like I said, when you point the finger, look, there's like three or four of them pointing at me, right? So I say, well, take care of yourself. Like if there are things you don't like about the relationship, ask yourself why. Ask yourself, what is it in me that has a blockage towards that situation? And so how do you think, how does healing oneself can heal others and in your life and in your relationship?
Mm. Healing yourself, look, everything I do, the basis of everything I do is always about putting that mirror back on me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you heal your wounds, you raise your vibration, and then you're going to, like attracts like. So when I was first divorced or first separated, I was angry. I was, fighting my ex-husband, and, angry at the world, going, like, how did this happen? And what I was attracting when I was going out on dates was people who were angry at their
Of course.
ex-wives.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And so we would just have this conversation about, oh
How
yeah,
angry you were at this
my
and that.
ex did this and my ex did that. And then I realized that I didn't want to go out on a date, and I didn't want my first conversation with my future partner to be about how much I hate my ex-husband.
Yeah.
Because truth be told, I didn't hate my ex-husband. I still loved my ex-husband. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
like what he was doing, what I felt like he was doing to me. And it wasn't until much later, and I'm going to talk years later, that I realized that I was allowing
Mm-hmm.
him to do that to me
Yeah.
because I was reacting.
Yep.
So it was once I turned it on me and went, well, what am I doing that I can change in order for this to go away?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I've completely forgotten the original question.
So how does healing oneself heal your
Yeah.
life and your relationship?
Yeah. So in my business, I work on vibrational energy. And
Mm-hmm.
I have this theory that, if I've met you here and I start working on myself, then my vibration's going to rise. So you've
Mm-hmm.
either got to rise with me or you've got to fall away.
Mm-hmm.
And I have I've had a beautiful experience this last couple of years with a gentleman that I met. And it's like the universe brings us together when we're vibrating at the same level, and we're a catalyst for each other's change. But what happens is, because he chose to stay in a toxic situation after we met, he stayed here and I kept vibrating up. And then, so he'd drop away. And then he would do some work on himself, and then the universe would bring us together when they felt like we had more work to do. And then again. And so it's actually been this beautiful journey where we have, every time I come into connection with him, it's like he is my catalyst for the biggest amount of change, because
Mm-hmm.
he's a special, particular soulmate that I have a contract with. So every time I work on myself, I bring in a much happier, more positive, more enjoyable experience, because I'm bringing in higher vibrational people. So the more you work on yourself, and the more you can go, well, I'm not going to blame anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give a good example of this. Like a couple of months ago, I actually broke my arm. It's only just literally come out of the cast 2 weeks ago. Now, how I broke it was, I was doing an exercise at the gym, and I was instructed to do it again, and I wasn't feeling well. And anyway, this person insisted that I do it again. And I'm like, so I did it again. And of course, second time round, broke the arm, drove myself to the hospital. Yep, it's broken. And I was really angry, not so much at the person who instructed me to do it. I was angry at myself for not pushing back and going, no, I'm not feeling well. There's no need to do that second
Mm-hmm.
exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst I, yes, initially, and everyone would be angry at the instructor, and trust me, I was angry at the instructor, but I was more angry at myself. So when I turned it
Yeah.
back on myself and I said, well, Lisa, you still had a choice. You could have pushed back, but you need to clean up your boundaries, because I teach boundaries for a living, but I'm not
Yeah.
always so
Yeah.
good at putting them in place for
Yep.
myself. So again, there was a lesson there. And so once I learned to go, okay, healthier boundaries, reinforce the boundaries and follow through, I was able to then let go of the anger that had caused the pain. So I don't actually feel any pain in this arm anymore. I'm still working on the
The
movement.
flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my business, if your pain lasts more than 8 weeks after the original injury has healed, there will be an emotional component to what's actually causing the inflammation. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've had a teacher that used to say that the issues are in the tissues.
Oh yeah.
So meaning that, your energetic storage of negative feeling all over your body. So if you have a bad knees where there's some issues in there that needs to be resolved. And a lot of time, if you succeed to resolve that issue, then all of a sudden, miraculously, your knee doesn't hurt, right? I don't
Yeah.
know how it happened. My knee doesn't hurt. And I'm
Yeah.
happier into that section. So how do you help people um, release those negative um, feelings or energy in different part of the body to store traumas? How do you support people with that?
Um, when I'm working with clients one-on-one, we utilize timeline therapy and hypnosis are my favorite modalities, because especially timeline therapy, because what I've discovered, and this was life-changing for me when I was training, is sometimes the negative emotion isn't from this lifetime. Sometimes it is generational. We actually pass down, you think about it, when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother's eggs that created you were already inside of her. So anything that your grandmother was experiencing can be passed down to your mother, and then and down to you. So what I love about timeline therapy is we can actually go in and clean up any generational trauma. I recently did generational clearing for myself and past lives, necessarily what's happened in this lifetime, and I do get challenged on that a lot. It's like, well, if people don't believe in past lives, they generally won't be working with me, because I believe you've got to be open to whatever is going to work. And the unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and made up. So it's just that mindset. If we can work with the mindset. So my favorite modality is timeline therapy, because timeline therapy, the changes that we get can be instant. I can clear out generations of anger in the space of a 15-minute session. Now, there's a lot of pre-work that goes in before that 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But the actual act of removing the anger can happen that quickly. And to
Amazing.
me, it's powerful. I have had clients that have been in therapy for 10 years. And I believe in therapy. I've been to therapy, and talk therapy is a thing, and it's a very much needed thing, and it has its place. However, if you're not getting results after 10 years, you need to look at something different. And I've had people come to me after 10 years of therapy, and we've done the timeline therapy, we've utilized hypnosis, and within 30 days, they are a completely different person. And this one particular client that I worked with this year, he had recognized that he kept showing up in relationships and having the same issues. So he recognized that it's me that I need to work on. And one of his ex-girlfriends told him that, and he's like, oh, maybe I do. And when he came and worked on himself and cleared out what was actually causing the problems, he then went on to actually meet someone completely different and is now having a different experience. And he said, it's interesting, Leisa, because I do values work as well. So I always go, what's important to you when it comes to relationships? Because when you know your values, if someone is showing up and they're not actually matching your values, then you get to have that conversation around it, or you go, they're not the right person for me. And to be able to, in those early honeymoon phases, not get carried away with the, often the physical attraction, and be able to recognize and go, well, communication is my highest value, yet you're taking 2 weeks to return my phone calls. You don't think it's appropriate to pick up the phone and speak to me. You'd rather send me emojis. That's not aligning with my value of communication.
Yeah.
So if that's not working out in the beginning, what makes you think it's going to work out long term?
Yeah, that's not going to change for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So the ability to confidently assess whether someone is actually a match and compatible. We get caught up in the I think the head rush of that excitement in the beginning, that we forget to look at the long-term compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
And often when we're in that in love feeling, we make irrational decisions. And then further down the track, we get into trouble. And that's where relationships break down.
Mm-hmm.
But even
Mm-hmm.
when relationships are in trouble, they can still be rescued if both of those people want to work on themselves individually to then come back and work on the relationship.
But how can someone can start? What is the one thing that someone can do to start the healing process? Like
The
without
number
doing, like without necessarily, like somebody say, okay, I'd like to start working on myself. I'm not sure I'm ready to hire anyone, but what can
Yep.
they start doing?
The number one thing you can start doing is get out of the blame game. When we sit in the blame game, like, well, they did this to me, if it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for them doing this, then I wouldn't feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
When you can actually, as we talked about before, turn the mirror back on yourself and go, okay, well, why is this happening for me instead of why is this
Yeah.
happening to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That, honestly, if you say that one sentence to yourself, why is this happening for me? And then ask for the answer to just be revealed.
Yeah.
And stop blaming other people for your unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that one thing, that is when life will actually start. You will notice a change. You'll even notice a change in yourself.
Yes,
And
of
that
course.
that to me, once I stopped asking the question, why is this happening to me? And started asking, why is this happening for me? It was easier to put that mirror back on myself. And also give yourself the permission to feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
Too often we want to discount the feeling, but if you actually allow yourself to feel the emotion and bring it to the surface, it's going to be a lot easier to then let go. It may be
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable feeling it, but it'll feel better on the other side.
Yeah, initially it's like what I started doing 25, 6 years ago is I've decided to be 100% responsible for what happened to me. So I stopped saying it's not my fault.
Mm,
Right? So now I don't go around say it's all my fault, right? But it's more like when something happened, like I don't do the blame game.
yes.
I haven't told, like I haven't say it's not my fault because, he did this and all that. And that changed my whole perspective to me, the way I
Yes.
see myself. I feel like it's empowering me to take charge in my life because now I'm in charge. I can't blame other people for what happened to me. So if I want good things to happen, then I have to show up. I have to move forward. And that didn't happen overnight. But now I don't think if I ask my friend, people around me, they don't really hear me say it's not my fault.
Mm,
Right. Like I say other things, like, oh, I put myself in that situation or this happened, but I don't blame. I don't say, like it's, oh, it's not me. I didn't do it,
mm,
and that changed everything for sure. It makes a huge difference in someone's life for um, just giving yourself power
mm.
to be the person you should be, because we all have amazing power. But when we blame others or when we point the finger at others, we just like, it's almost like a ray of giving your power away and giving your power away, and then you feel
Yep.
deflated and you feel defeated, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, my journey has taken probably about 8 years
Hmm.
to get to where I am,
Yeah.
but just starting with that, getting out of the blame game, and finding the positive, even in the worst of situations, you can always find a positive.
Yeah, yeah, there's always something.
Always.
And if
Yeah.
the positive is that you're learning something, that's positive, right?
Oh,
Even if there's not like, oh, because this happened, then something positive is going to happen to me. Well, the positive might be just that you're learning something. Be curious about what am I learning here,
yep. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
what is, like now, one tip that you can tell people before we go. And I know you have a gift for us, and we'll talk about how people can reach you. But like, what is the one thing you could say to conclude that, and maybe get people to come to our conference on January 19th? So
Oh, putting me on the spot here.
yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so one tip. I love when I'm not when I yeah, because even love and happiness coaches have their down days. So when I'm not feeling, 100% or I'm feeling a little bit off,
Mm-hmm.
I go and do something that shifts my energy really quickly. So I'll put on, I grab my playlist and I'll hit shuffle, and I'll ask for, okay. And I talk to both my brothers in spirit every day. And every morning I go, right, boys, what's our theme for today? And I'll hit shuffle. And some days I go, "Oh, really?" But I just go with it, and I actually just dance. And
Yeah.
when you move your body, it's like they say, shake it out. I love Jim Quick always goes, shake it out,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that. So for me, when every day we can find something to be grateful and happy
Yeah.
for, and when we are appreciating instead of whinging, you will raise your vibration instantly. So my one tip to give away is, because I know with our conference it's all about action, taking action. We're not
Mm-hmm.
just going to talk at you; we're going to be talking with you, and we're going to be getting you to workshop.
Like, yeah, it's a
So
conference workshop, so people will
yes,
actually be involved and working on themselves and growing during that conference.
yes, and that's, to me, that's amazing. I have. How many conferences, Denise, have you been to where you just take all these notes and then you get home, you throw it, you know,
Yeah,
over
you
there
don't
with
get
a
anything out
pile
of
of everything else, and
for
you
sure.
never actually implement anything?
Yeah.
That's what I loved when I signed up to be a speaker in this conference. It's because I loved the concept that we're going to workshop with you. So for me, the number one thing that you can do is take action. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a big action. It can literally be as easy as walking out your front door and bathing in the sunshine. If you're somewhere like me where it's gorgeous
God,
sunshine,
I wish.
I mean, it's 27 degrees at 6 o'clock in the morning, and that's Celsius, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
know what the Fahrenheit conversion is. But, it's boiling hot outside. But even just going out and putting the sun on my face for
Mhm.
5 minutes
Yeah.
is going to shift you into a much better headspace.
Yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so taking action is, yeah, one of my favorite tips.
Wonderful. So now I'll show how people can reach you. So they can reach you on Facebook and Instagram, and it's a relationship done differently. I like that.
Yep.
So you can reach her there. So go look on Facebook or Instagram and type it in, and then you'll find her. And you have a gift. Tell us a little bit about your gift, which is 5 step to true happiness. What will they find there?
What you will find in there is a lot about what we've talked about here today, and just how we can actually, when you reframe your perspective on how you see things, life will literally start to change.
Hmm.
So there's a few tips in there. There's 5 steps of things that you can literally be doing straight away. And they don't cost anything. That's the beautiful thing. Not only does the ebook come free, everything in that ebook is free to do. It doesn't cost you
Wonderful.
anything to implement this, and it will literally just get you to start thinking. What I love doing with my, with my clients and my audience is getting you to think about things differently. And on my Facebook and Instagram, it's pretty much the exact same material, because once Instagram and Facebook said you can cross post, I'm like,
Hmm.
yay.
Yeah.
Uh, but I tend to do like a daily, well, not quite daily. And since I broke my arm, there's been hardly any. But there is a
Hmm.
huge library there of just quick 60 to 90-second videos, posing a question, giving you an example. And, I always encourage, and I did a video the other day, I'm going on holidays with my children next week. And so I'm not going to be doing a lot of live posting because I'm going to be traveling with teenagers. But there's a plethora of videos to get you to start rewiring the way you see the world
Hmm.
and how you've been showing up in the
Yeah.
world. That to me is my favorite thing to do. Is I want to inspire you to start thinking differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Because too often we get, like, I give the example to people like living in the Canada in winter and all that. It's like driving in snow, like if everybody drive in the same track, right? Once you have to change lane, it's really hard because you've been
Mm.
driving on that track all day long, and then you have those big bump that you got to go through. But it's okay to shift lane. It's okay to think differently. It's okay to build yourself a new pathways in your brain of the way you think in order to change your behaviors, because everything starts in here and then
Yeah,
the rest will flow. So I love that. I'm going to download this 5 step and check it out for sure. So thank you
excellent.
so much, Lisa, for being here. So I'll put the link in the comment in YouTube. So go check our YouTube channel for how to reach Lisa also, and how to sign up for the conference. And stay there, Lisa. I'll be right back with you. I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. So thank you so much. That was an amazing talk about how to really get to know yourself and to heal yourself in order to heal your relationship and the life around yourself. I really enjoy that. And I also have a gift for you, and it's a checklist about starting over. A checklist. I've been working, as I mentioned throughout this show, that I'm working with people in relationship, and also people that have changes, whether you just become a newly widow, newly divorced, or your kids have just left the house to go to college or going to work, and you're in big transition. Well, I have a checklist that is the starting over checklist, and I encourage you to download it and check it out. Like, it can help you, give you a few tips on how to handle those changes in your life, and how to be able to move forward in a very positive way. And again, I mentioned the YouTube channel. So make sure you go on our YouTube channel at Denise Belisle at YouTube. And then you can find all my previous video. You will find this video there in about an hour. So if you've been watching it on live, you can go back on YouTube. I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to put it on YouTube, and then you can go check it out. And if you want to have a chat with me, well, tiny.cc/talk with Denise. So I look forward to for our next episode. For the next few weeks until the January 19, we'll have guests coming up that are part of that conference. So I invite you to join us at the conference. I will also put a link on the chat below, on the comment of how to reach us at the conference and how to sign up. So until next time, be kind to one another, and life is good. It's all good. Take care. Bye bye.